Hey everyone, I'm Tamoor and I recently got to see Elden Ring in action. Yep, you heard me right, I got to see 15 minutes of the game as well as get a presentation from Software's Yasuhiro Kitao, and I've thrown together this quick collection of 7 brand new things that I learned about the game. For more on Elden Ring, make sure to like this video and subscribe to GameSpot. Yep, you read that right. From Software games are known for their intricately connected worlds where narrative is delivered in fragmented pieces, leaving the player to make connections, fill in gaps, and draw conclusions. So when rumors that Elden Ring would be an open world title started to spill out, people naturally had questions. But according to From Software's Yasuhiro Kitao, however, the team didn't set out to even make an open world title. In fact, From Software isn't even sure it has the correct definition of what encompasses an open world experience, and so it isn't quick to call Elden Ring one. To be clear, it is unmistakably an open world game, but one that's cut from the same cloth as Breath of the Wild rather than any of the recent Assassin's Creed titles. The distinguishing factor between them for me is how deliberate the construction of the world feels and what the moment-to-moment experience of adventuring is like. The lands between, where Elden Ring takes place, is an interconnected world that, while vast, didn't look like it was big just for the sake of being big. Visually, it's incredibly dense, whether standing atop craggy cliffs, peering out over a land blanketed in an ominous fog, or trudging through flooded cities. From Software wants you to always be drawn towards something of interest on the horizon, and hopes that, along the way, you may accidentally stumble into something unexpected. Like Breath of the Wild, the developer is counting on curiosity to be your guide, instead of dozens of icons on a map. Similarly, the things that you stumble upon or have thrust in front of you feel more emergent than in most open world games. In the hands-off demo I saw, one such moment was a dragon suddenly swooping down and engaging the player. In any other Soulsborne game, the telltale signs of a scripted boss fight would appear. The terrifying but epic orchestral score accompanied by a life bar and a fog gate that signifies you are definitely trapped. But these elements did not appear. It was just an incredibly pissed off dragon looking to pick off a wandering warrior. Scattered throughout the overworld are dungeons that can be stumbled upon while exploring. These, in classic From Software fashion, are sometimes deadly detours that invite the player to overcome traps, enemies hiding in dark corners, and the occasional boss in order to find treasures. Interestingly, the one I saw felt reminiscent of a Bloodborne Chalice dungeon. Depending on your opinion of the divisive Chalice dungeons, that may not sound particularly enticing. But I didn't see enough of these dungeons to say whether each of them is bespoke in its design or procedurally generated like many of the Bloodborne Chalice dungeons. However, everything you know and love from a Soulsborne dungeon is otherwise present. There's intimidatingly large blades swinging around environments, ready to cleave you in two at the slightest misstep. There's monsters that pounce on you as soon as you emerge from a doorway. And there's even a wooden chest with a chain curved upwards. Also scattered around the world are what From Software calls legacy dungeons. The name is intended to signify that these areas present something akin to the traditional Soulsborne gameplay experience in a contained environment. The legacy dungeon we ventured into was Stormveil Castle, which in classic Soulsborne fashion is an expansive medieval structure that dares the player to breach its gates. However, a weathered, beastly looking figure wearing an ornate book as a necklace, who can be found skulking in a dark corner nearby, advises you to do otherwise. Stormveil's gates are closed, but he can request they be open for you, a foul tarnished in search of the Elden Ring. Here's where things change in a more obvious fashion. The player is presented with a choice. They can either request that the strange figure give the signal to open the gate, or heed the warning and take a back route that is much safer. Bold adventurers will want to go through the front gate, but given the immediate barrage of arrows that followed the moment the Tarnished crossed the threshold, I suspect they will realize that the back route is the smarter option. Picking one doesn't lock you out of the other path, however. Instead, this choice is presented as a kind of on-the-fly difficulty decision. Difficult challenges are the cornerstone of From Software's games, but according to Kitao, From Software's intention is never to create a difficult game just for the sake of it. Instead, the team wants players to enjoy the experience, clear the hurdles, and see the game through. It creates games with a sense of value derived from overcoming hardships, and Elden Ring implements new ways to do this. One of these is by taking mechanics from its last game, Sekiro. Like Sekiro's protagonist, Wolf, the Tarnished is agile, capable of leaping into the air at a moment's notice. In gameplay terms, this means that platforming is now more integral to the gameplay experience, and as such, Stormveil Castle is designed with verticality in mind. The Tarnished is shown jumping from rooftop to rooftop, slinking through an open window and down into the castle. Out in the fields of the lands between, the Tarnished can engage in stealth, avoiding combat entirely or adopting an assassination-oriented playstyle. In outright battle, meanwhile, a leaping heavy attack will break through an enemy stance, leaving them vulnerable. In addition to creating exciting new gameplay opportunities within the Soulsborne framework, this new injection of agility means people who may not be as confident in standing their ground and fighting towering beasts, imposing knights, or deadly magicians have a way to take some semblance of control in battle. They can dictate the pace a little more. Another way they can turn the tides in their favor is by summoning what are essentially minions that will fight for you. These function similarly to co-op partners, but with decidedly less staying power. The summons I saw didn't seem like they could stand up to a boss, but against a mob of enemies they were effective at taking the pressure off and even thinning out the crowd. Kitao said that Elden Ring aims to make the most of its sprawling world, so there will be plenty of interesting places and plenty of interesting people to discover too. From Software describes the story of Elden Ring as a multi-protagonist drama. While facing old heroes and demigods in search of the Elden Ring, the Tarnished will encounter a variety of characters, and the game is more focused on them than any of From Software's previous titles. Characters have always been crucial to the narrative of the Soulsborne titles. You only have to look at the fandom surrounding Solaire, Siegmeyer, Mikolash, or Genichiro, and many of the others to know how important they are to From Software's games and the people that play them. Elden Ring aims to double down on characters to address the fact that for many, From Software's games have stories that are difficult to pass. By focusing on characters and the drama surrounding them, the narrative is painted in a much clearer way, establishing a strong baseline that anyone can enjoy. That's not to say it will be as straightforward a tale as something like Sekiro. George R.R. Martin's involvement all but guarantees that. The Song of Ice and Fire author laid the foundation for Elden Ring's mythos, creating characters, rivalries, political intrigue, corrupted lineages, and more. And From Software has built on this foundation with its own brand of storytelling. According to Kitao, not all of Martin's work is represented in the final game. In some cases, characters he created aren't in the game, but their place within the history of the world is represented. This is the kind of thing that will no doubt serve as fodder for the obsessive Soulsborne community to dig into. That's a few things that we learned about Elden Ring. For my full preview, head over to GameSpot.com, and for more Elden Ring, make sure to like this video and subscribe to GameSpot. You can find me on Twitter at TamoorH.